Good morning, class. Last time we began with a new chapter, the Delhi Sultanate, where we talked of the various sultans who ruled India in the early medieval times, that is from 1206 to 1526. Now, here we talked of the court chronicles, where the various accounts from various court poets and writers are mentioned. You are supposed to know the writing and the person who wrote them. Then the archaeological historical accounts are there. That means the buildings that they left and they are still there, which give us immense information about the period. And in that connection, we first dealt with the slave dynasty. The slave dynasty or the Mamluk dynasty had various rulers like Kutubuddin Aibak, he was the founder of the slave dynasty. Then Iltutmish, he was the real, you call it, a successful ruler of the slave dynasty because he was able to uh, stop the Mongols from invading India. And it was under Genghis Khan, whom he had settled without a big battle. Then we are told in that same connection about the date here, 1229 AD. The Caliph of Baghdad bestowed him with the title of Sultan of Hindustan. So we know a great deal. This could only happen when he was really a great ruler. Then we talk of the coins that he had issued, the silver and the copper coins. The silver coins were called tankas, whereas the copper coins were called jittal. Apart from this, he had a group of 40 nobles who looked after the ruling areas, who were elite, who were renowned people, and they were known as Chalisa. Then we talk of Razia Sultan, who was the successor of Iltutmish. Though Iltutmish had many sons, yet he chose Razia Sultan to rule. But it was not liked by the nobles, and soon she was overthrown and killed. Then the last of the slave dynasty had Balban, who was also known for his policy of blood and iron. That means he was very to the point, he was ready to fight wars, and iron here indicates the sword. So he was all for war to get into the consolidation of his kingdom. He crushed the power of the 40 nobles as he was one among those. So he had to curb because the others were retaliating. Then he was able to stop the kingdom and stop the Mongol attack on the kingdom. And the only drawback was he was so all in all powerful that he introduced a custom called Sijda and Pabis. Now, Pabis is basically bowing down, coming down on your knees and then bowing in front of a king. Sijda means you're just bowing your upper torso and bending in respect. So this was not liked by many nobles and the court people because in their religion they only bow down in front of their god, not in front of a king. Now we come on to the next heading, the Khalji dynasty. The Khalji rulers ruled for 3 decades. They expanded the sultanate further. The first ruler of the dynasty was Jalaluddin. Now we read about him, Jalaluddin Khilji. Let's come to here. All eyes on here. Underline the dates. 1290 to 1296. 6 years he ruled. Jalaluddin was very old when he ascended the throne. He was not a strong ruler. He adopted a lenient policy towards the Mongols and married one of the daughters of Ulugh Khan, the leader of the Mongols. Underline the name Ulugh Khan. Jalaluddin was already 70 years old. In 1296 AD, Alauddin Khilji, his nephew and son-in-law, murdered him and captured the throne for himself. So we know about Jalaluddin that he was not a very powerful king. He was very lenient in his policies and he had married a Mongol daughter from a leader of of Mongols, the Ulugh Khan's daughter. And he was 70 years when he was killed by Alauddin Khilji. If you have seen that movie, what was the name? Deepika Padukone's movie. Anyways, so naam bolo.
Padmavat.
Padmavat, yeah, see. So there you have seen how Alauddin Khilji had killed Jalaluddin Khilji. Okay, and after that he took over the power. Alauddin Khilji, he was the nephew also and son-in-law also. That means Jalaluddin's daughter was married to Alauddin Khilji. So he murdered him and captured the throne for himself. So now we read, though it's little hazy, but I think you'll manage. So Alauddin Khilji, we need to remember the dates 1296 to 1316. Alauddin Khilji was a great military genius. He followed the policy of defense against the Mongol invasion. So, first thing, we need to know that he was a strong military man. He believed in wars. And the first thing he did was he stopped the Mongol invasions altogether. The next thing he adopted, number two, he adopted the policy of expansion. So he conquered various kingdoms because he wanted to expand his kingdom. And since he was into military genius, he conquered the kingdoms of Gujarat. Please underline these places: kingdoms of Gujarat, Malwa, and Rajasthan. He had heard of the beauty of Queen Padmini, wife of Rana Ratan Singh of Chittor. So he attacked Chittor and defeated the Rajputs. Queen Padmini and other Rajput women performed Johar. Johar is a sacrifice where when you are alive, you burn yourself into the holy fire. Having conquered North India, Alauddin sent his army led by his general Malik Kafur to conquer South India. Now, you have heard about Malik Kafur also. He was a loyal slave of Alauddin who was later on sent as a general to the southern part of India because northern part of India was all in control of Alauddin Khilji. He had conquered Gujarat, Malwa, and Rajasthan and expanded. He even conquered Chittor. So then he went sent his general Malik Kafur to the south and see what he did. The Yadavas of Devagiri, underline Yadavas of Devagiri, Kakatiyas of Warangal, underline it, Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra were defeated and accepted the supremacy of Alauddin. So the Yadavas who were ruling in the south in the area called Devagiri, then Kakatiyas were ruling in Warangal. This is the name of a place. Kakatiyas, the rulers of Warangal, and Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra. These are the places in the south. Devagiri, Warangal, and Dwarasamudra are places in the south, and they were ruled by Yadavas, Kakatiyas, and Hoysalas. So he defeated them and gained his supremacy there. He released the kings on payment of tribute to him. Now he knew, Alauddin very well knew, that though he has conquered these kingdoms in the south, but the moment he'll reach Delhi, the kings will know that he's far away, so they'll again come to power. So what he did was he asked these kings to give him a tribute. That means annual payment was made. Okay, you take the kingship, but you will be paying me a certain amount every year. This was the deal made. Okay. As an able and efficient administrator, Alauddin took several measures for consolidation of his empire. So now, since he had a large empire, and to consolidate an empire, you need to have a number of reforms. Now, what is consolidation? That it means to hold the empire together. So he took he also took strict measures to prevent rebellion among his nobles and officers. Now he also kept a strong check on his nobles and his other officers because he had killed Jalaluddin Khilji himself. Then he was a noble. So he knew that the nobles can always gain power. So he kept a check on the nobles and the officers. Then, in the field of revenue system, he made several reforms and introduced various taxes. Example, jizya and zakat. Now, underline these two taxes. These were the two taxes he imposed on the people so that he could have a efficient working system. He also began the market control system and introduced an efficient postal system to have contact and communication with distant parts of his empire. So now these other two things, market control, that means he had good hold on the market prices. Nobody could sell things of his own choice. They had to abide what what prices were quoted by him. Supposing rice was sold, say, of 10 tankas, so in every part of the kingdom where he was ruling, anywhere you go, it would have the same price. No shopkeeper could ask for more or less. So in this way, he kept an efficient control over the market. Then he also had postal system. That means the postal system of communication. You can write letters, and through horses and horsemen, it was communicated to the part where you wanted the letter to reach. So in this way, he kept an efficient control over the market. Then he also had telegraph system. That means outreach. So in this way, to be in touch with all his people. Now here is a fact file which is quite Razia established academies, center for research, and public libraries that include the works of ancient philosophers along with the Quran and the traditions of Muhammad. The Hindu works in the sciences, philosophy, astronomy, and literature were reportedly studied in schools and colleges. Razia refused to be addressed as Sultana because it meant wife or mistress of a sultan. She would answer only to the title Sultan. Okay, so she refused that her first name should be called. She never wanted people to call her Razia Sultan. She always wanted that they should refer to her as Sultan. Okay. And then the works she did, she opened number of academies, schools, and libraries. In the libraries, the Quran was translated and was learnt. Apart from this, the other Hindu works which were done in science, philosophy, astronomy, and literature, they were also studied in the schools and colleges at that time. Okay, now we move on to the Tughlaq dynasty. So we should know that in the Khilji dynasty, we are only supposed to know about Jalaluddin Khilji and then Alauddin Khilji, who captured Chittor. You remember the Queen Padmini was beautiful, and he was attracted by her beauty, and so he attacked Chittor. This movie can be a reference. You know about it. Now we come on to the Tughlaq dynasty. The Tughlaq dynasty was one of the most important dynasties of the Delhi Sultanate. This dynasty ruled for about a century. Ghazi Malik, please underline, who assumed the title of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, was the founder of this third dynasty of Sultanate of the Sultanate. That means on the Delhi throne, the Sultanate, the third dynasty which came to power was the Tughlaq dynasty. It was started by Ghazi Malik, and he named himself, once he became the king, he named himself as Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Now we read about him in detail. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, the date is 1320 to 1325. Sorry, just a second. Yes. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq usurped the throne from Khusro Khan, the last ruler of the Khilji dynasty. Now see here, Khalji dynasty did not end immediately after the death of Alauddin Khilji. Always there are weak rulers which are overthrown by the strong ones. So the last among the weak rulers after Alauddin Khilji was a man called Khusro Khan. Now, he was the last Khilji dynasty ruler and he was a weak ruler. So he was overthrown and Ghiyasuddin took his place. Okay. He reformed judiciary and police departments. So now Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, once he came to power, he looked after the judiciary, that means where you are given justice, and the police departments which were working at that time. Now, not exactly the way we have today, but yes, more or less the same. Now, the land revenue was reduced to 1/10 of the produce. That means the land revenue, whatever produce you got from the land, supposing you got 100 rupees from a land, so 1/10 was given to the king. So that means 10 rupees was given to the king out of that 100 rupee land. Okay. So 1/10 part of the land produced was for the king and he could collect the revenue from that land. 1/10. Okay. He carried out many works of public utility. Now he was a kind-hearted king. He worked for people, people's welfare. So in that connection, he built canals were dug, gardens were planted, and forts were built for the protection of the people. These are the works he did. He carried out certain military reforms too. So he was into military work also. He built a new city of Tughlaqabad near Delhi. Now you all must have heard about this city because once you go to Delhi, there's a place called Tughlaqabad which is still named the same and is there only. Just while you're going from Lucknow to Delhi, it comes before Delhi. Okay. The Sultan was killed in 1325 AD under mysterious circumstances. After the untimely death of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his son Jona Khan ascended the throne under the name of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So his name was Jona Khan. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq died early, premature death he had. So Jona Khan, his son, took over the throne and he named himself as Muhammad bin Tughlaq, just as um, Ghazi Malik had named himself as Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. His son, Juna Khan, named himself as Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So we now read about the details of his days 1325 to 1351. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a learned man, well versed in many branches of knowledge, yet he was a strange man. Some historians call him a mixture of opposites and the wisest fool, while others call him mad. Now, let me tell you, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, had brilliance which surpassed many kings at that time. But then, whatever plans he did were, though they could have turned out very nice if he would have acted properly, but because of certain drawbacks, each of his plan, though the plans were excellent, but each of his plans failed. And that is why many historians call him mixture of opposites. That means he was wise as well as foolish, because whatever plans he thought of were not ever thought of before. But yet the implementation of these plans were wrong. So they failed, and that is why he's called mixture of opposites or the wisest fool. मतलब सबसे अकलमंद बेकूफ. Okay. Now he offended the orthodox ulemas by just a second. Oh, I'm sorry. This is again hazy. By curbing their political influence, his failure as a ruler is attributed to his three famous projects. Now, first thing before we go into the three projects is that he offended the orthodox ulemas. Ulemas are the priests, the religious priests, and he was not able to keep them happy. So once you're not able to keep your priest happy, many things regarding religion don't fall into place. Apart from this, there were three reforms which he brought. That means three changes, three projects he undertook, and those were totally failure. Let us see the dates and the projects. In 1326, he increased the taxes on the farmers of the Doab region. as he needed more resources to meet the expenses of the army. The Doab region at that time was undergoing drought and famine, so people rebelled against the Sultan and he had to withdraw his orders. Now, Doab region is a very fertile region. In India, the Doab region is in West Bengal, where you have those Sundarbans now. Now, that region was a fertile region. So, what he did was in 1326, he increased the taxes because he knew because it's a fertile soil. So, people will be able to plant more trees and they could give also more returns. So, the land revenue on those farmers was increased. Now, that was the time his idea was very good. It was a fertile soil, and farmers could have given him more taxes. But what happened was the time when he imposed this reform that Doab region will be taxed more. That was the time when the Doab region, which is the fertile region was undergoing drought and famine. सूखा पड़ा हुआ था उस समय पे वहां पर भुखमरी थी लोग people were dying because of the scarcity of food. So though his plan was very good, but the implementation was wrong because he chose a wrong year to do that. People were suffering at that time. They were having drought and famine. सूखा पड़ा हुआ था वहां पर. So people obviously rebelled and he had to take back the reform. Then the second thing which went wrong was in 1327 the Sultan shifted his capital from Delhi to Devagiri, renamed as Daulatabad. He thought that it would be easier to control the Deccan from Daulatabad, but the project failed as thousands of persons and their cattle died on the way. It also became impossible to control North India and safeguard the frontiers. So the Sultan ordered to shift the capital back to Delhi, which again caused hardships to people and claimed many lives. So now, the second reform was that Muhammad bin Tughlaq in year 1327 AD, he was in Delhi. Now he thought that Delhi is a northern part of India. Let me go to the center part of India, somewhere in Devagiri, and let me rule from there so that I'm able to check the North India as well as the South India. So his idea was very strong, very right. But what he did was, when he was shifting to Devgiri, the place Devgiri was named as Daulatabad by him. What he did was, he asked the people of Delhi also to shift along with him. Now, the people moving with their cattle, with their settled lives, their homes are there. But since the king has ordered, so people had to move. And on their way, the journey was too long and many people died. Once he reached there, once he settled there, obviously, when you settle to a new place, you find it very, scary. You don't associate with that place. So, same thing happened. Though he was in the centrally located area, but it was that the northern part was turning insecure. That means the throne of Delhi was in danger. Thinking these conditions, he had to go back again to Delhi. So from again Devgiri, that is Daulatabad, which was renamed as Daulatabad, he again shifted along with his people back to Delhi. And again in that number of people died. So now the idea was right. He could have shifted his capital in the center of Delhi, center of India, so that he could have control. But what went wrong? He asked all the people also to move along with him. Now he was a king. He could have an elephant ride and he could go, or a horse ride and he could go. But what about the common people? They were on their feet, they were walking all this distance. So his implementation was wrong. So it went wrong. Now, number three, in 1329, 1330, he introduced token currency. Token currency is the money that you exchange for anything. Now, this project also failed on account of the circulation of counterfeit coins on a large scale. Finally, Muhammad had to withdraw the copper coins in exchange of silver coins. This caused a huge loss to the treasury. Now, let me tell you about this. In 1329 and 1330, what he did was, the kingdom was earlier using silver coins as a currency. Now, he knew that silver is quite expensive. So, what he did was, to make it a little handy, he made the coins out of copper. Now, Though the copper coins were made easily, and the idea was right that okay, he will be able to have lot of money and the kingdom would be strong. But what happened was copper was a cheap metal. Everyone in the kingdom started making their own coins. They no longer depended on the king for making the coins. So everybody had money now. Now this and all the money was fake. उन्होंने जाली नोट बनाने शुरू कर दिए. Note नहीं, currency, I mean copper coins. Now copper was a cheap metal. उसको minting में कोई भी mint कर लेता था. घर में ही बैठ के सब बनाने लग गए. So now they didn't needed money also because they had it. So he had to stop that also. So it was a successful idea, but it went into gutters because of his lack of sightedness. The Sultan had several other visionary plans. He decided to conquer Khu- uh, Khurasan and Iraq and mobilized a huge army without considering the problems of transport and difficulties of geography. This project had to be abandoned. Therefore, he sent a huge army to capture the mountain of Karajal lying between India and China. The expedition ended in a disaster, causing a heavy drain on the treasury. So now, Sultan made some more blunders. He decided to conquer Khurasan, and Iraq. Now, these places were quite far. He started making a strong army, thinking that he would conquer this area, Khurasan and Iraq. But then he did not see that in between this whole way, there are many geographical mountains as hindrance. He did not thought of the problem of transportation. And so it was a failure and he had to give away the project. Then what he did was that same army was sent to the Karanjal mountain of Karanjal, which was in India and China's border. Now, this expedition was also a disaster because people living on plains, they don't have very good idea to climb mountains. And then mountains also, they are very cold places. So again, it was a disaster. The army died, it suffered a lot, and there was a huge money loss to the treasury of his kingdom. Muhammad Tughlaq's visionary plans proved quite disastrous for himself as well as for his empire. Land became barren, there was a heavy drain on the royal treasure. Consequently, there were revolts in different parts of his empire, including Bengal, Daulatabad, and Warangal. He tried to suppress revolts but lost control over the regions in the south of the Vindhyas. So finally, his kingdom started breaking, and the Vindhyas are those mountains which divide the plateau region into two parts. Vindhyas, so the areas beyond Vindhyas, that means in the southern part, he lost total control over the people. The last Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 1351 to 1388 AD, as Muhammad Tughlaq had no son, his cousin Firoz Tughlaq succeeded him. He was a devout Sunni Muslim, but he was intolerant towards Hindus. In order to get support of the nobles and ulemas, he tried to win over them with land grants. He introduced many reforms in administration. He abolished a number of taxes and imposed four new taxes, including jizya on Brahmins also. He increased the salaries of his officers. So now, since Muhammad bin Tughlaq had no son, his cousin Firoz Shah Tughlaq took over. Firoz Tughlaq took over, and he was a very staunch Sunni Muslim. That means he was a strong believer of his own religion, and he was not tolerant towards the other religions. So he imposed heavy taxes just to keep the ulemas, that means the priests and nobles, happy. He supported them. He gave them lands as gifts, and number of taxes were imposed on people. Now this was not liked, and he increased his officers' salaries to a huge amount by paying these, making people, common people, pay the taxes. In order to encourage agriculture, he paid a lot of attention to irrigation. He had a passion for building cities. He founded the towns of Firozabad, Fatehabad, Hisar, Jaunpur, and Firozpur. Please underline these are the towns that he built near Badaयूं. Now, he also built a number of public works, though he did a lot of public work because he was fond of irrigation and agriculture. He encouraged agriculture, and that is why he made towns which made life of the people comfortable. Then he did a lot of public works. He also introduced several judicial reforms. Law and order was perfect. He abolished the practice of torture of criminals. That means the criminals who were at fault, even they could not be tortured. He looked after them. He was quite considerate that they should not be tortured. Okay. However, Feroz had a passion for procuring slaves. He had 1,80,000 slaves who were trained in different skills. See the amount of slaves he had. My God. The army was organized on a feudal basis. Feudal basis means the topmost was the noble. Under him, there were certain people. Then, under those people, they looked after the uh, other parts. I mean, there was a feudal system, means there was hierarchy. That means on top, he was the king. Then, under him, there were nobles. Then, under him, there were under nobles, there were other people, and so on. There was a hierarchy which looked after. Okay, the regular soldiers received grants of land while temporary soldiers were paid in cash. So the soldiers who were regular, they were appointed for uh, n number of years, they were given lands as a payment, whereas the temporary soldiers, they were only given cash. His army consisted of 80,000 to 90,000 cavalry. He introduced a new system of hereditary claim in military services, which was highly objectionable. So now he had a huge cavalry. Cavalry means the fighting people. Then he introduced hereditary. That means a soldier's son could also become a soldier. Now, this was not very appreciated by the common people. Firoz Tughlaq's successors were weak. The state of Jaunpur, Gujarat, Malwa, Khandesh, etc., became independent. In 1398 AD, the invasion of Timur Lenk, a great conqueror from Central Asia, brought great miseries to the people. He looted many cities and let loose the reign of terror and massacre for a fortnight in Delhi during the reign of Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud Tughlaq. So after Firoz Shah Tughlaq, there were weak rulers, and the last among them was Nasiruddin Muhammad Tughlaq. And during his time in 1398, Temur Lung visited India. He invaded India and conquered Central Asia. And he was from Central Asia. He conquered and looted India. He stayed here for nearly 15 days, and it was a reign of terror. It was a time of terror, and there were mass killings all over. And finally, the Tughlaq dynasty came to an end. We stop here for today.